pass it over to you.
Okay, well, I just want to thank you again for coming, and this is primarily a listening session, so you can tell me what I need to know. I will be happy to answer questions if you have them, but as I say, it's primarily for me to listen to you. And I do have a few questions that I would like to understand. So I'm going to wait and hear if you answer them as we go along, and if not, I will ask them to you at the end. Okay. So Gabriel, you could run the meeting then, or Brandon?
Yes. So if folks have comments or questions, you can either type them in the chat box, or you can virtually raise your hand. If you click on the Manage Participants icon, a list of all participants will come up, and then on the bottom right, there's a raise hand button. So you can click that, and we'll get a notification, and we'll call on you. Or if neither of those work, you can just wave your hand on the screen, and we'll be watching, and we'll call on you as well. But if anybody wants to ask a question for any of those mechanisms, you can go ahead and get started.
Senator, what was one of the questions you wanted to ask, maybe just as a prompt to get us rolling?
Okay. And they don't have to be questions to me. I'm primarily here to listen to what you want to happen. So it's not just questions, it's what you would like me to know. But I will go, oh, I'm sorry, I restarted my computer, so I lost my questions. I'm coming back up here. Okay, so, well, one was about the relationship that you would like to have with the district schools, and if you have a relationship with them now, and if you would like it to be different. And another thing I would like to know is how you handle the time load if you're a working parent, or because it does take so much time and energy to be a homeschooling parent. So those were two of my questions.
Well, I'm happy to start and chat. Hi, greetings, Senator. My name is Kitty Michelati. I am a homeschooling mother of 3 young boys, and I am the chairman of the Home Education Advisory Council, which is appointed by the Commissioner of Education. And I'm also a member of Granite State Home Educators. Granite State Home Educators is a statewide organization that brings together homeschoolers from all over New Hampshire. And we have several thousand members. It's a pretty wonderful resource that we have where we can always reach out to one another and help one another with any decisions, whether it's, hey, I have a child who has an IEP with his school district, will I still be able to get services when I homeschool? Or my child isn't doing well with this particular writing curriculum, maybe can someone else suggest a different one? And so it's almost like we have an entire teacher conference going on at all times, because we can reach out to one another, and we all have various ages of children. Some people who have maintained their membership with Granite State Home Educators are no longer homeschooling, but they're still willing to be a part of the community because they have so much knowledge to give and so much passion for helping other homeschoolers. And so that's the different organizations around the state of New Hampshire, whether it's the New Hampshire Homeschooling Coalition, each town. Sometimes each town has their own homeschool groups. I live in Derry, and so we have a Derry homeschoolers page on Facebook where we can reach out locally. Hey, does anyone need this? I'm getting rid of this book, or who's got an idea on what's going on this week that's educational that we can participate in, field trips, co-ops, things like that. I am lucky enough that part of my working job is teaching. I teach at some local co-ops. There's a co-op in Manchester called Latitude Learning Resource Center, where parents can choose different school classes for their kids to take, anything from historical Dungeons and Dragons to foreign languages to civics, art classes, pretty much any class you can think of that a parent has chosen to choose a different teacher for rather than teach it themselves. And so I am lucky enough to be one of those teachers, and I get to interact with other students as well as my own kids, which I really appreciate. As far as answering your question about school districts, I chose the local SAU as my participating agency. So when I chose to homeschool my children, I reported directly to them. And when I have reached out to them for questions, which I haven't done very often because it's easier to ask homeschoolers. Public school districts have so much else on their plate that they may not be able to answer my question as quickly without needing to do as much research as a veteran homeschooler. But that being said, when my child wanted to join the track team at the local school, they were very open to it. I got a response within, I think, 3 hours. And then I was put in touch with the head of the track team within a day. Unfortunately, it didn't work out because schools shut down in March. But my experience in working with my district was very positive. That's not a universal experience. Some people have had different experiences with their districts, but I can speak to my own.
I think Kate McLaughlin had a question. Okay.
Hi, Senator Dietsch. Thank you for taking your time with us. We really appreciate this. I live in Peterborough, and I homeschool my 3 children. I've had a great experience actually with the district where SAU won. I went through a series of testing for learning disabilities for my oldest. It was a series of things that I had suspected from the start, and we were able to identify that he has ADHD, some significant amounts of dyslexia, and kind of, some a few other things that sort of relate to both of those. And incidentally, those were these issues and struggles that he's had, which I, as his mom at home, knowing him better than anybody, certainly could see and had a hunch were going on early on. And they were what sort of drove the decision for me to keep him out of a classroom environment, because he would not have done well there. Now, going into 6th grade, he'd do fine, but we love the homeschool lifestyle, so we've stuck with it. But my experience of going through the testing was fantastic. They were supportive. They were supportive of the choices I had made. And one of the things I want to share with you, which I think were more conversations to be had between educators and policymakers with homeschool parents, this experience would probably be replicated. The people that were conducting the tests on my son and were having conversations with me were continually saying, how do you know? How do you know about this format of teaching a child with these struggles English? You're not a teacher. You don't have teacher training. How is it that you understand this? And my response to them, and they were shocked, and I said, if you were to sit down with most of the homeschool mothers or fathers that I know, you would probably have something similar to say. I'm not unique. I'm an expert in my child. And what I was seeing were struggles, it was totally borne out in the testing. What I had chosen for materials, they looked at it and they said, we couldn't do better. what you have chosen to do, what you have done, you have brought your child beyond the level of literacy expected at his age, despite the fact that he has slow processing skills, despite the fact that he struggles, that he cannot spell, he probably will never spell, but he is a literate, intelligent, vocal young man. But so two things here. One is that the vast majority of parents I know really are experts on their children and have made themselves a study of their children and of their needs. And for me to go through the testing with SAU1, you know, they're wonderful, wonderful people there. It really was able to confirm for me that I have been doing the right thing for him, that I had made good choices for him. And it was very affirming of my intelligence and my love for my child as his parent, that this was really, the right thing was happening here. And they were so thorough and so enthusiastic and so supportive. And then I also happened to meet the chairman of the board skiing. He taught my kids to ski. And when he found out they were homeschooled, we ended up going up and down, you know, he taught me, he actually did a lesson for me. We went up the mountain at Crotchet several times together as he was teaching me. And he asked me a lot of questions about homeschooling. And one thing he said is, we want our homeschool families to know that we're there for them, that we want to support them in any way possible. So my only two experiences with our public school system were fantastic and supportive, but it was precisely because they were acknowledging that I had something to offer to my child, and they respected that. So that's the end of my comments on this topic. But thank you for listening.
Neil Sanford. Gabe, do you want to?
I'm not presently home educating. We did that for 20 years, from 1989 to 2009. And we also, under the Conval School District, SAU1, I can say that there's a wide variety in the state of New Hampshire, because when we went before the NHIAA to allow home educated students to play in sports in New Hampshire, we were strongly supported by the principal of Conval, but the Keene superintendent just said, no way, I don't want to have anything to do with homeschoolers. So there are some superintendents that take that approach. We found that Conval was open to us as much as we wanted to do. And for us, it included having when the children were in high school, they were all grown and left home. All 5 of them have graduated from college. 3 of them have master's degrees. When we wanted to make sure that they were getting everything that they should get in high school, we developed a program with the local principal. I don't think it happened with others. It was very effective for us, where we tracked their time on subject areas and had a complete portfolio that he would review at the end of each school year, and he would actually sign a home education transcript for us, so that when our oldest son was a junior, he actually had enough credits. He went to Conval for that 1 year. He had enough credits to graduate that year. He came back home for his senior year, because he found that he learned so much better at home than he did at Conval. So Conval was a very positive experience for him. I think that the answer about how you can hold down a job and still home educate, we found the program that we were in had a requirement that my wife not work. So that was an easy choice. But she was very active in many other things out of the home, and a lot of it was the older children helping the younger, and so there was no real big gaps. And so there are a lot of different ways to do it, because a lot of people misunderstand that home education is not bringing the classroom home. It's tutoring, and tutoring is a very different animal, if you want to use that crass word, than teaching in the classroom. I did some substitute teaching in an elementary school in Florida before I moved to New Hampshire, and I found that a lot of the time in the classroom was taken up with classroom control and all kinds of other things. That when you do tutoring with your own children, I totally agree with what the lady said. We didn't have any special needs children, but we could get things done almost twice as fast as what it takes in a traditional classroom. And I teach in a traditional classroom now, so I understand that even more. So home education was very effective for us. I think the question about this new program that's being proposed, I think, yes, we have to admit in life there are bad policemen and there are good policemen, and there are bad parents and there are good parents. But instead of doing away with all policemen or doing away with all parental involvement, we should just find some way to make it so that the bad parents can't meet the requirements to get into that new program. So our experience has been very positive. Our children have done very well, and if we had to do it all over again, we would definitely home educate.